All right. Hello, everyone. We are here with comment responses to my Squidward torture video. Let's see what people have to say about Squidward torture, huh? How are we all doing today? Got a lot of comments on this video, so we got a lot to look at here. A lot. Let me just bring this a little closer to me so I can see it a little better. There we go. How are we all doing today? How are we all doing? All right, we are. Welcome back. Welcome. How's everybody doing? We ready to look at some comments, some comment responses? How do we all like this video? This was a big one. This one was a labor of love, that's for sure. This was, tough video to make. 38 minutes. Probably the most amount of time I put into a singular video. Because technically my longest video is my AI video. My initial one about how Sponge Truth stole from me. I got a couple on the podcast channel too, but the one on the main channel is 44 minutes, but most of that was just me like talking and making arguments, so it was actually a lot easier to edit that one. This one was 38 minutes, but it was full just talking. Not talking. It was just full footage and critiquing episodes. It was a lot of editing work in this one. Me and my editor put in quite a lot on it. I watched it recently. Great as always. Well, thank you. So yeah, so this is the comment section on my Squidward torture video. And if you haven't seen the video, I recommend you should. It's really great. And in that video, I talked about the concept of Squidward torture. I talked about the security system takes control of Squidward's house and that whole meme and I talked about what security system takes control of Squidward's house means for reviewing and why that isn't a great review of a cartoon episode, because it's a little I talked all about that stuff, and then I went over 9 episodes that are considered Squidward torture episodes, and I talked about what made them work and what didn't make them work. So these are the responses to such a thing. Squidward torture is such a fascinating topic to discuss. Well, you are in the right stream for that. All right, so the first comment we'll look at says, sorta. And I think sorta is in response to the title of the video. The title of the video is Squidward torture bad writing? So they said sorta it's bad. It's sorta bad writing, they're saying. Here are my thoughts and problems. 1, it shows SpongeBob and sometimes Patrick at their worst and can't take a hint, along with technically doing character assassination to them. But that's not all Squidward torture. Not all Squidward torture is that. I mean, unless you consider, like, the camping episode isn't really them at their worst, because Squidward chooses to go camping with them. I guess they make a couple of mistakes, though. I have this problem that I can't help but side with Squidward even when he's in the wrong. No one wants to be a Squidward. I've only ever labeled something as torture when it's unjustified. Yeah, I guess you could see that. Like, maybe the classic SpongeBob episodes, like the Sea Bear episode. I said that the Sea Bear episode is the best Squidward torture episode, but perhaps you wouldn't even call it a torture episode because it was deserved. Having Squidward get hurt when for most of the eps he did nothing wrong in the classic seasons came from them were somewhat justified, but nowadays it's out of cruelty. A lot of people used to hate Squidward in the classic seasons, but the farther and further we go, people start to understand where he's coming from and even side with him against SpongeBob and even liking him more along with SpongeBob as well. I don't think it's a lot of people used to hate Squidward. I think it's just, this is kind of a, when you're a kid, you relate to SpongeBob. When you're an adult, you relate to Squidward. That cliche. It's probably a little bit like that. Like, it might have been this person's personal experience, but Squidward is, I don't think Squidward's gotten more likable or that he was less likable in the earlier seasons. I guess they did a better job of making him come off negatively in the earlier seasons, whereas in the newer seasons he kind of doesn't do much wrong that kind of justifies it. Like, it doesn't really lean into a lot of that arrogance in some of the later episodes. That is why Squidward deserved it. So that's probably why this person feels this way. Why is SpongeBob starting to be just obsessed with Squidward? Yeah, that was another problem later on, is they would have in like what's it called? In like jellyfishing or something, SpongeBob just kind of like asks Squidward to hang out with them, or like in the camping episode, like they're excited that Squidward comes camping with them because they want to hang out with him, but like it's not like a whole thing. But like in Choir Boys, he's like kind of like really stalking him. Or even some other examples that weren't in the video, like, what is it? I don't remember what that episode was called, but there was one where SpongeBob is like, oh, I want to, like, hang out at your house, Squidward, and he's, like, really creepy about it. Like, there are a couple of examples like that. Why is he not like this with people who actually like him, like Sandy or Patrick? Yeah, it does come off as odd. Like, it could be a sense of, like, because Squidward rejects SpongeBob, SpongeBob wants to be friends with him more, whereas people like Patrick and Sandy already hang out with SpongeBob. But it is a little inconsistent, where like usually when people are that desperate for friendship with someone, it's usually because they don't have like good friends themselves. So it does kind of come off as odd that SpongeBob is so intent on being friends with Squidward when he doesn't want to be friends with him. Which makes more sense in the earlier seasons, where there are moments where it seems like Squidward does like him. When will we get a non-SpongeBob video? Well, I'm going to cover the Mario Galaxy movie when it comes out. I'm trying to see some good ways that I could do content that isn't just about SpongeBob. But I do like SpongeBob. I do like doing SpongeBob content. But SpongeBob definitely is kind of my bread and butter right now. Absolutely. But I'll try to see if I can start pivoting out of it. The more successful I get as a channel, the more branching out I can do. So support the channel, and we'll see what other kinds of videos I can make as we move forward. The episode with Squidward trying to get his vacuum back from SpongeBob's house. Yeah, that was like a kind of stalkerish one. While I understand your point on Friendiversary, it doesn't actually work for me. So I said that Friendiversary, which is a modern SpongeBob episode, was a good example of Squidward torture, because Squidward narratively deserved the punishment, because in the episode he tried to erase SpongeBob's memory of Squidward so he doesn't have to deal with him anymore. And that leads to a lot of the punishments, but he also gets a lot of punishments in the beginning of the episode before he does that. And I said that the punishments at the beginning of the episode, even though they weren't narratively deserved, were still good writing, because it motivated Squidward's actions that were mistakes later on that he then had to pay for. The phrase, you appreciate what you have till it's gone, has to start with someone taking something for granted. Squidward didn't actually do that. SpongeBob wasn't treating Squidward well, and he finally had enough and took the drastic action. If the moments that Squidward tried to recreate included ones from Band Geeks, that episode where SpongeBob and Patrick tried to build Squidward's Utopia and Squidward's Tiki Land, or even when SpongeBob and Patrick got him that plant that he wanted, he would understand that SpongeBob has done something nice to him as well, so he'd want to get his memories back. Oh, that's a pretty good criticism of the episode. Yeah, so in the episode, they make a lot of references. Friendiversary was a big reference episode. I actually didn't talk that much about that, because I actually thought the references in Friendiversary were done pretty well. I think that they just worked with the story, and it was like, oh, they're talking about memories, so like they showed like the camping episode or something. Like Squidward, basically when Squidward erased SpongeBob's memory, Mr. Krabs made him get the memories back because SpongeBob forgot the combination to the safe for the secret formula, so Squidward had to get it back. And he reenacts like the camping episode, or like dying for pie. Like he reenacts memories that I guess would not be good memories for Squidward. They would only be good memories for SpongeBob. So this person is saying that the episode should have it should have focused on things that would have been good memories, like Band Geeks, like Squidward's Tiki Land. I don't know about I haven't seen the plant episode, but I guess that's another example of them being nice. So like other moments that Squidward would appreciate. They do reference Band Geeks, but for like a second in SpongeBob's eyes when SpongeBob remembers at the end. He remembers Band Geeks. It's one of the things in his eyes, but they don't like harp on Band Geeks. They do kind of say like, oh yeah, all of these memories, which were bad memories for Squidward, are like things that he should appreciate. So I guess I could see that. I still think it was a pretty narratively sound. I think also, he didn't come to appreciate SpongeBob's company. So I get what you mean, because in the beginning of Friendiversary, SpongeBob does all this stuff with Squidward, and because SpongeBob is so oblivious, Squidward like ends up getting hurt, so it's showing that's like an annoying friend. But I think also like there is elements of the Friendiversary that should be something that Squidward should appreciate, like the fact that he doesn't want to celebrate at all. Is also we could talk a little bit about that. So some things with there's a couple comments about this that we'll get to, but I guess I could address it here, is that in this show, something that is a common misconception, I think, about SpongeBob is the idea that Squidward doesn't want SpongeBob's friendship, like, at all. And I think that's really not the point of the character. It is valid to not want someone's friendship if you just don't want to be friends with them. But I think that the point of Squidward and SpongeBob as characters, what the narrative actually wants us to think about them, is that Squidward is someone who does want SpongeBob's company, but he's resistant to it. He's arrogant. He thinks he's above it. He thinks he's above the childish things of SpongeBob, and he actually would enjoy them if he gave them a chance. We see this in many different episodes. I'd say Squidville is like the best example of it, because they're playing with the reef blowers and Squidward thinks it's so childish and silly, and then at the end he plays with a reef blower and he finds that it's enjoyable. There are so many examples of this where... And I think, while I don't want to say that, oh, we should look at, like, you know, this other episode proves that this episode does this, because a lot of episodes stand on their own, but I think in general, that is supposed to be the point of Squidward, is that if he had given friendship a chance, he would have enjoyed it. And I think every episode that involves the SpongeBob Squidward dynamic, at least every good episode, does kind of lean into that. And I think Friendiversary, the point is that SpongeBob had this celebration with like confetti and stuff, and Squidward just kind of is like throwing it in the garbage, and he's not like interested in celebrating his friendship with SpongeBob. And the lesson of the episode is that you should appreciate people in your life. Not that you have to. If you don't like someone, you have a right to not hang out with them. But it's that Squidward, in that specific situation, and in probably a lot of situations in your life, there are people who you would have enjoyed the company of that you are actively neglecting, and that is what Squidward is supposed to teach us. I actually love Are You Happy Now? I think it's greatly introspective on Squidward's character. I'm writing a script on Are You Happy Now? It's going to be a video on mean-spirited SpongeBob episodes, so I will be talking about Are You Happy Now? And I do think that there's some positives to that episode. I think it's not a perfect episode, but there are some things in it that are, I think, good lessons. I used to watch that YouTuber back for his total drama videos. Oh, okay, so this is referring to the guy who, the original security system takes control of Squidward's house. So if you don't know the clip I'm referring to, there's a meme where it's like, security system takes control of Squidward's house and begins attacking this. It's this thing where it's an old YouTube video. It's super grainy, and it's just a guy like ranting about the episode Good Neighbors. And it's very funny, like the way that he takes it seriously. And I used that rant as the foundation of this video, where I talked about how that rant is not good critical analysis, and it's why we find it funny, and how there can be good critical analysis. So this is a little insight into behind the creator. Oh yeah, and also the security system video, the original video that meme is from, was taken down by the creator. The creator did not want it to stay up. I think they took it down probably because of its meme status. If I had to guess, that's probably why it got taken down. So I wanted to say, I acknowledge that in the video. Like, I acknowledge that the original video creator wanted it taken down. Wait, hold on. Let me just get that. I acknowledge that the original video creator wanted it taken down. I wanted to let that be known, just so it didn't come off like I was being mean to the original creator. But this person apparently used to watch that YouTuber, so that's actually good insight. I used to watch that YouTuber back then for his total drama videos. It was more between 2013 to 2014 when he did that list. Okay, so this person is saying that the original video, the security system takes control of Squidward's house, was posted between 2013 and 2014. I said that it was posted probably between 2014 and 2015. But yeah, I could probably see that. I think I said 2014 because SpongeBob You're Fired was the newest episode that was in that video, and I think that premiered in 2013, so I guess I just gave it 1 year later after that, so I guess it was closer to SpongeBob You're Fired. I know this because I watched said video before Good Neighbors turned 10 years old at the time. Considering that episode is now 20 years old, it makes me feel old. Yep, SpongeBob's been around a long time. Hey, Jack, I wanted to ask if Suction Cup Symphony would count as a torture episode because I think it's quite good. Heck, it's a modern Bang Geeks in my eyes, not in quality but in story structure. I haven't seen it in a long time. It definitely, from what I remember of it, it feels Squidward torture-y, even though he gets a win in the end. I think an episode can still be a Squidward torture episode even if Squidward wins in the end. Did Squidward win in the end of any of these episodes? No, none of them, right? Yeah, none of my examples in this video are episodes where Squidward wins. When you were naming examples of airplanes working as a setting, I was surprised you didn't mention the movie Airplane. It's because Airplane is it's an absurdist movie and it has a lot of absurd jokes and that heightens a lot of Airplane. So it wouldn't have really applied as well. I guess it could have applied. I guess that could have been a good example. I thought the Seinfeld was a more one-to-one example, but that is an interesting thought. Honestly, it is less about if Squidward gets tortured or if he is a jerk and more about comedic timing and the usual rules of slapstick. Say, Firmly Grasp It is a quick and exaggerated scene, so it has a much easier time being funny than the drawn-out and psychologically cruel Ink Lemonade, even though both involve Patrick causing physical damage to Squidward. Of course, comedy is subjective to a degree, so IDK, someone might find the latter more funny than the former for all I know. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. So, like, in slapstick... So when you have slapstick cartoon punishments, a character in a cartoon gets punished by getting hurt. You can look at it in terms of, okay, did the punishment fit what the character did? But you also can look at it in the severity of what the punishment looks like. So like Firmly Grasp It is pretty, like, would be pretty gruesome in real life. Like, he literally shoves the thing through his hand. But because he has the cast on, and because it's only, like, for a second, like, you don't see the skin, it's just it going in there, you get a little bit more of a laugh because you're a little more removed from the damage. Whereas Ink Lemonade, you see the ink come out of his nose, and it gets drawn on for longer. Like, it is a lot more just based on what it looks like, even though an Ink Lemonade technically, I mean, I know humans don't ink, but like if it was just like kind of a harmless like liquid you produce coming out of your nose, provided we did do that, then like that would be not as big of a deal as getting a thing shoved in your hand. Yet Firmly Grasp It doesn't seem as bad just because of the way it looks. Narrative dissonance, I believe it's called. Yeah, that sounds about right. Narrative dissonance. When it comes to the security system episode, honestly, it unironically just kind of baffled me when I first watched it. Not even for any moralistic reasons. I was a kid or teen, IDK. I didn't really think through justified consequences of writing at the time. Makes sense. I probably didn't either when I was that age. let alone enough to get remotely offended by it. Just that it genuinely read as nonsense, even for cartoon brain fart standards. Squidward gets instant punishment because it is his house, even though there is nothing else pointing towards him being at fault. Points A and B just did not connect to me. Even then, it felt like it came out of nowhere. At the time, Kitty Me was actually worried that SpongeBob and Patrick were going to get in trouble for being in the rampaging house, because, like, it's not like they are really at fault either, but from the outside, it would at least reasonably look like they were hijacking it. It did not even occur to me that Squidward was remotely instructed for punishment. Yeah, so they're saying that when they were a kid, they basically found the security system to be lacking, but not because of the deep reasons that I pointed out. I think what that is it's a thing. It's one of those things where it's like, you don't know, but you know. Like when you're younger and you watch the security system scene and you don't like it and you know that there's something wrong, you're not able to put into words that it's because of like the consequences not being fair, but like that is why, even if you don't fully know. I like the point you made in the video about it heavily being implied to be blood adjacent due to the tissues and such. I think the fact that so much is shown makes it so much rougher. Yeah, I thought that was so weird in Ink Lemonade that they kind of tied it into it being blood. Even the fire truck thing, I just got weird vibes. Weird vibes. I like Ink Lemonade, but I think it has some flaws. Of course, the gross out humor is not for everyone. It doesn't gross out me, but I can see where people are coming out with this. Huh. That's an interesting perspective, I guess. Wow, you got a strong stomach then if you don't find it gross. I mean, I guess it's not the grossest gross out episode. Would the Splinter be worse in terms of pure gross out? I don't know. I think Ink Lemonade is worse than the Splinter. I guess it just depends on your association with the inking. The Patrick skin thing is also just very vile. I just really can't get past it. I just think it's so weird. The ending sucks. That time could have been spent with more gags of Patrick running the lemonade stand. At least the Squidward torture had nice animation and creative gags. Yeah, there were a couple of like creative gags on it, but you know. SpongeBob could have also had a more prominent role. Well, if SpongeBob isn't needed for the story, he doesn't have to have a more prominent role. It's still better than Dumped, though. Nah, I think Dumped is probably a better episode than Ink Lemonade, for sure. I mean, Ink Lemonade might be my bottom SpongeBob episode ever. Might even be below Truth or Square. I just think it was, like, so unsavable. Also, in Plain to See, Squidward does willingly go with SpongeBob and Patrick, even after all these torture episodes. That doesn't really make it narratively deserved that he goes with them. It actually almost makes it seem like I know logically, like the way that the scene works in Plain to See. So Plain to See, my criticism of Plain to See was that it's like the most completely undeserved Squidward torture. He gets tortured throughout the episode on the plane, and he literally does nothing. There is literally nothing that he does that makes it narratively deserved. So they're saying that in Plain to See, Squidward willingly goes with SpongeBob and Patrick even after all these torture episodes. So there's two things with that. In Plain to See, they actually have it be that Squidward doesn't know that SpongeBob and Patrick are going with him. Like he goes, oh, wow. Like Squidward looks at the ticket. He's like, wow, we get to, I'm going on this vacation. And he goes, wait, the winning family? And then he appears at the airport. Now, logically speaking, obviously there would have been time in between that where Squidward could have been like, well, nope, I don't want to go on the trip because now I'm going to have to go with SpongeBob and Patrick, and I'm sure something bad's going to happen because I'm with them. Like, I guess logically you could think that, but what that is communicating in cartoon world is Squidward thought he got a vacation. Uh-oh, now he's stuck with SpongeBob and Patrick. And, like, that's what that communicates. Not so much that Squidward made the choice to go with SpongeBob Patrick, and that makes him deserve everything that happened to him. If anything, the episode kind of went out of its way to try and make it not deserved, to try and make it seem like Squidward didn't have control over it. Like, maybe if it had a scene where it was like, yeah, Squidward, you won this vacation, but you have to take SpongeBob and Patrick, and Squidward has a moment where he's like, oh no, every time I'm with SpongeBob and Patrick, something bad happens, but I really want this vacation. That would have made some of the torture more deserved. If it actually harped on that. But the narrative didn't communicate that. The narrative actually communicated quite the opposite, that Squidward just ended up with them rather than he chose to have them with him. TBH, still disagree with jellyfishing for the same reason you dislike The Choir or Ink Lemonade. Does Squidward do something that's narratively deserving of punishment? Yeah, but it's also entirely disproportionate. Also, yes. They're talking about how I said that jellyfishing was a good Squidward torture episode and Choir Boys and Ink Lemonade were not. The injury is weirdly permanent for such a slapstick show. It'd be like if in Tom and Jerry, after Tom gets his foot crushed, he just spends the rest of the episode trying to recover whilst Jerry decides to set traps explicitly just to keep hurting the foot. That is true. That is true that in a lot of cartoons, injuries aren't really permanent like that. I mean, I guess it's not permanent because it's like not for the rest of his life, but it is for the rest of the episode. He's like in a wheelchair. However, they do focus on Squidward getting hurt and falling off the bike. So I think because it has more focus on the damage and Squidward's injury is a part of the story, it still does work within the cartoon world because it did go out of its way to establish that it was a worse injury than usual. Because, like, injuries... it's not fine that they made like the fact that he was in a wheelchair a like source of the jokes or whatever, like, because that was pretty in poor taste, product of its time stuff. But I don't know if this is exactly a criticism that is totally valid, but I do see what you mean. Like Sponge being ignorant is as natural as Jerry setting up tracks and Squidward being hurt for being... Like, Sponge being ignorant is as natural as Jerry setting up traps and Squidward being hurt for being mean, as natural as Tom's foot getting crushed. But, you know, there's restraint. Lingering on the consequences of slapstick just kills the joke. It's why The Simpsons doesn't show Bart gasping for air after being choked up by Homer. It's just plain unpleasant. Well, I think, honestly, I think Bart getting choked by Homer is always unpleasant. I think that was never a good idea to ever have that, to be honest. As iconic as it is, I think even without him gasping for air, I think it's actually always been in pretty poor taste. Even in a cartoon thing. But I do get what you mean. I just don't think it's disproportionate. I think that Ink Lemonade is so much more disproportionate. All Squidward does in Ink Lemonade is he throws a lemon at Patrick's eye, and he's like a little rude. And then Choir Boys is kind of like that too. He's like, SpongeBob, you're laying here, and I'm going to go be in the choir, and you won't be in the choir. And that's kind of it. But in jellyfishing, it specifically focuses on Squidward saying no to the jellyfishing, being sarcastic. A whole scene where he's like, oh yeah, I'd love to hang out with you. And he's all sarcastic about it. It really does harp on Squidward's character flaw. Whereas in Choir Boys and Ink Lemonade, Squidward doesn't really have a character flaw. Choir Boys maybe a little bit with the arrogance. Ink Lemonade doesn't have a character flaw at all. It's not a character flaw. Like throwing a lemon and being like kind of rude is not a character flaw. But jellyfishing is commenting specifically on that character flaw, and that way, in that regard, the punishments are narratively sound, with poor taste aside. But I totally do think that this is an interesting statement about the injury being permanent and that being weird for a show with so much slapstick to have such a permanent injury. I do think that is an interesting take. It's one that I think might not be 100% correct, but I do totally see that. And I probably would think about that a lot. If I were writing a similar show, I'd be like, hey, isn't it weird to have a character be in a full body cast when like in this other scene, they get smacked around and they're fine. What are you yapping about? You don't have your own take on the topic, just using another YouTube. Oh. Oh, are we back? Are we back? Okay. We just cut off a little bit. All right, it seems like we're back. I'm having a couple issues today. All right, let me go back to this bloke here. Okay. Thank you for sticking by me. Okay. Yeah, so just using another YouTuber as the video, but I wasn't though. Like, I'm commenting on how the other YouTuber discussed media and how I think that it's a flawed way to discuss media. Speaking like you know all the author's intentions. I guess they're saying that I'm saying like I know the intentions of the original security system creator. Well, I wasn't saying I knew his intentions. I was saying, I guess maybe they're referring to that I said that because the original creator took the video down, they weren't meant to be taken seriously. They were just messing around and talking about episodes they didn't like. I guess that is kind of saying that I think that that was his intention. But I was saying that to be nice. Like, I was saying that to be like, hey, like, don't take this guy too seriously. Don't, like, I didn't think that that person wanted to be taken that seriously. I mean, maybe if they did, like, I'm sorry, but, like, that matters about someone else's opinion. Yeah, I just think this is a silly comment. This is an odd defense of someone who didn't really need to be defended. The speaking like you know all the awesome intentions. Well, I think it's odd to say that. This is a very strange obfuscation of saying like, oh, don't act like you know someone else's intentions. Well, first of all, if someone puts something out there, it should be commented on, you know? And I guess it's the difference between author intent and viewer interpretation. It's not so much that I was saying that I knew the author's intentions, because you can't really know anyone's intentions unless they tell you. And even if they tell you, they could lie. Not that I think the security system creator would like lie about their intentions or anything, but you can't know someone's intentions, but you can interpret what you think something means because the thing is put out there. The security system creator created something, they put something out there. I am interpreting it. Me saying what I think it is my interpretation, not me saying that I know their intentions. And also a lot of the stuff I said about the security system was like objective. Like I said, they commented on the actions of the characters. Like that's not acting like I know their intentions. That's literally what they did. Yeah. Very. Well, yes, but actually no. I'd say less the torture itself that makes an episode bad, but rather it's the cherry on top of an already crappy sundae. I could see that for a lot of these examples. For example, Choir Boys doesn't suck just because of Squidward having a rough day. It's the lackluster comedy and obnoxious scenes that make it suck. Yes, but those things are more connected than you'd think. Like, they are... So, like, the reason that the episode had lackluster comedy and obnoxious scenes is because Squidward's punishments in the episode are not narratively deserved. Those things are connected. I said this at the end of that part of the review, where at the end of Choir Boys, I said, if the episode had a better idea of what it was trying to say, then it would have had better jokes and it would have had better scenes. But because the episode has nothing to say, all they have is lackluster comedy. It's why I pointed out that one joke in the beginning of Choir Boys where there's the toilet and the toilet paper, and the toilet paper is like, don't feel bad. He didn't use me yesterday either. And it's like, why is that joke there? That joke doesn't make any sense. And it's because the story itself has nothing to say. So they have to fill the 11 minutes with something. And because their story has no substance, what they fill it with is lackluster comedy and obnoxious scenes. So it is connected to the the episode being bad on its own is connected to the narrative not being sound. A lot of times we look at media and be like, okay, well, like, is it entertaining and is it meaningful? Like, those things are separate, but those things actually tie into each other. A narrative being more meaningful and meaning something is what makes it more entertaining. Those things are connected. There wouldn't be a version of Choir Boys where it's super funny and super fun to watch. Like, there's no hilarious version of Choir Boys that doesn't fix the problems with the narrative deservedness of what happens to Squidward. You would have to fix that in order to fix its entertainment value. Oh, yeah. You missed the point on entertaining the viewer. You focus too much on teaching that I'll watch 3 videos of security system takes control of Squidward's house and begins attacking the city, then listening to your boring essay. You missed the point on entertaining the viewer. You focus too much on teaching. You focus too much on teaching. So this person hates learning. Got it. I'll watch 3 videos of security system takes control of Squidward's house because attacking the city. You missed the point on entertaining the viewer. Well, I still try to make my content entertaining. Like, I do structure my videos in a way that's still entertaining. Definitely my content is a bit academic. Like, I'm never, how dare you make an essay on your checks notes essay channel? Yeah, exactly. Like, I guess they're just mad that my content is a bit more academic. And that I care about the value of media. Like, I don't know. I wonder, I'd like to see this person elaborate a little more, honestly. Kind of wish I had responded to this comment earlier and maybe asked them to elaborate. Because I'd be curious to see what else they think, because I feel like I'm not getting the whole picture here. How dare you teach us about the topics of SpongeBob? Yeah. Definitely this feeds into the idea of entertaining and teaching are like separate. That, like, the idea of, oh, if something is entertaining, then it's not educational, when it's actually the opposite. Something that is educational is more entertaining. Like, the fact that my videos, bros be fighting you for no reason. Yeah, like the fact that my videos are so introspective is what is supposed to make them entertaining. If I, like, what is actually that entertaining about, like, security system takes control of Squidward's house and begins attacking the city? Like, the original video, like, I watched the original video. I watched, like, pretty much the whole thing. The whole, like, top 10 worst SpongeBob episodes that security. I watched the original video. The original security system video, and again, like, no hate to the original poster, but it's not a good video. Like, it isn't. It isn't a good critique of SpongeBob. It's not entertaining. Like, you're saying it's entertaining. It's entertaining because it's silly. Like, it's entertaining in the same way that a movie like The Room is entertaining, because it's like, oh my goodness, this is such a silly video. This is so incorrect in how media should be analyzed, but it's not entertaining in the sense that it's genuinely an entertaining video. Again, no hate to the original creator, but it's not an entertaining video. And the reason it's not entertaining is because it's not teaching you anything. It's not very introspective. In fact, in that video, some of the best parts of it, and it's, you know, there's parts of it that are salvageable in the security system video, are the parts that actually genuinely criticize the show. Like, there are moments in that video, I didn't talk about them because it wasn't relevant, but it is fair to the original creator that there are a couple of parts of it where they're like, yeah, like, this is a part of the decline of the show. Like, they did emphasize that, and that was teaching. Yeah. His name is Samurai of Hentai, Professor Finelli. What do you think is his favorite type of hentai? I didn't even notice that. Their profile name is Samurai of Hentai, and they're saying that they don't like teaching. Oh man. Yeah, some people. Good vid yet again. While watching, I kept feeling like Squidward Retribution and Squidward Torture might be two distinct things. Squidward Torture, of course, earring on acts of undeserved retribution. P.S. Appreciate the allyship at 3248. Oh, I'll address that a bit. Yeah, Squidward Retribution and Squidward Torture. Yeah, like calling it different things. Like I did do a blanket. Basically, Squidward Torture, the way it's defined in my video, is basically like any episode where a bunch of bad things happen to Squidward. A very broad term. But you could take a difference and you could go, yeah, Squidward Torture is when it's undeserved and Squidward Retribution is when it's deserved. You can totally do that. And then the first 3 episodes would not be Squidward Torture. And then the last 5 would be Squidward Torture. Oh, no. The last 6. No, 4 out of... If you did that, some of the videos would be Squidward Torture. Some of them would be Squidward Retribution. Probably about half and half of what I talked about in the video. I just use the word Squidward Torture for all of them. Mostly because it's a punchy term, but I do see the difference. Also, when they say appreciate the allyship, it's because I said that Ink Lemonade was an episode that never should have been made, and I very rarely say that about any piece of art, even the worst SpongeBob episodes. I think that art is a very special thing, even when it's bad art, even when it's not well done. I think that there's usually something of value that we can get, and I said that Ink Lemonade does not fit that. And I used as an example, I said that the only really other... The main things that I usually say are not valid pieces of art is anything made by AI. You know my stances on that. And I also said like hateful propaganda, and I used the Daily Wire movie Lady Ballers just as an example for it, because I think that that's the kind of thing that should never have been made, because it's literally just a movie that exists to hurt people. Like that's the whole reason the movie is made, is let's hurt people, let's make people's lives worse. So this person is appreciating that I called that out and that I am an ally, which is good, because I want people to feel like my channel is a safe space for them. So I am glad that you were happy about that. Squidward being a bad singer in Choir Boys doesn't even make sense for the character. If anything, Squidward is wasting his talent trying to play clarinet, which he can't do, when he should be focusing on singing talent that he's shown in other places. Just take a look at the credits of Truth or Square with Beautiful Dreamer, look at Hello Bikini Bottom, and I'm Not a Loser in the SpongeBob musical. Squidward just has the singing talent, and that's canon to me personally. I don't know any of these examples. I have not seen the SpongeBob musical. I've not seen Truth or Square. I'm sorry, I have seen Truth or Square, but the credits of Truth or Square? Does Squidward sing in Truth or Square? Am I forgetting something? I don't know what they're referring to. I don't know what these are. I don't know if this person is referring to Squidward literally singing. Okay, so here's the thing about a character singing. So, in a musical, when a character sings, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are actually singing within the universe. You know what I mean? Like, for example, if you take... I don't know about any of these Squidward episodes. Let's take, like, Atlantis Squarepantis, for example. Atlantis Squarepantis is a musical episode. And, like, Squidward sings a song in Atlantis Squarepantis about how much he likes art or whatever. That song is not literally happening. In the universe of SpongeBob, Squidward did not suddenly break into song. He's not actually hitting notes. He's not actually singing. The song just represents how he's feeling, as it is in most musical songs. In most musicals, very few songs are literal. It can happen. There are musicals where the singing is literal. You could have in a musical where it's literally the scene is they are doing a singing performance. And in that way, canonically, the character would be a good singer. But in these examples, and I don't know if these are episodes where Squidward literally sings. I'm just going to assume that they're not. If it's like, oh, Squidward sings really well because it's Squidward, the character, singing in universe. If it's Squidward, the character singing, but the song doesn't exist within the universe, that does not say that Squidward is a good singer. Because every character would be a good singer in that regard. Like, I guess SpongeBob is canonically a good singer because in Choir Boys he gets in the choir. But like SpongeBob singing a song, like in Band Geeks, SpongeBob sing. No, because in Band Geeks, that's actually a bad example. Because in Band Geeks, the singing is canon. The singing is real. So SpongeBob singing in Band Geeks and doing a good job would be an indication that SpongeBob in universe is a good singer. I can't think of any examples where Squidward sings in universe and is a good singer, because in a lot of times where a character sings, like you used I'm Not a Loser in the SpongeBob musical. I haven't seen the SpongeBob musical, but I assume that that's just a regular musical number within the SpongeBob musical. That does not mean that Squidward that does not mean that Squidward, the character, is a good singer. That means that the actor who portrays Squidward is a good singer and is singing the song that Squidward, the character, sings to represent the character's feelings, but the character themselves is not literally singing it in the world of the show. Yeah, I don't know if these are examples of Squidward actually singing, actually having singing talent. To be honest, it is actually canon that he is a good clarinet player, just that his beloved clarinet is faulty and people don't like him personally. There are multiple episodes of showcases. Is that true? Is that true? I didn't know that. SpongeBob and Tom Kenny can't sing? False. False. Do you know how hard it is to sing in a character voice? Tom Kenny's an incredible singer. What about when he sang the song about tissues on Pearl's birthday? Yeah, so that would be him actually singing within universe, but they hated it. They booed him. That's not true in SquidBob Tentacle Pants. They do canonically sing in Atlantis SquarePantis, but only to make the bus go. That is, you know what? That's so true. They do sing in Atlantis SquarePantis on the bus. That is canonical singing. It didn't have to be good singing, though, so it doesn't confirm a Squidward's a good singer. But I guess the singing is real, and the singing would have to sound good because the audience is hearing it. I honestly think that the only way that you can be sure that canonically a character is a good singer is if within the universe there is a time where they are mentioned to be a good singer. So SpongeBob is canonically a good singer because in Choir Boys they literally say that he's a good singer. And he also is the front man in Band Geeks. And that at least implies that. Whereas them singing on the bus would not imply that, even if the singing does sound good. I wholeheartedly disagree with Good Neighbors being a bad episode, and it's not only because I find it hilarious, but because I believe it's also valid and somehow important to teach people that bad days do exist, especially since Squidward was preparing for the perfect Sunday. Yeah, Best Day Ever did that lesson, I think, a little better, but I do see that. Since Squidward was preparing for the perfect Sunday. I don't believe in karma. I have had Squidward days of my own without being at fault of anything. Sometimes everything can go wrong, and it is our attitude towards this what makes the difference. That is true, but something being narratively deserved. So a narrative is not real life. In real life, something bad can just happen to you for no reason. That happens all the time in real life. But in a narrative, everything has to mean something. A narrative does not just make real life happen. Because a narrative is trying to make a statement about a perspective. So when something bad happens to a character in a narrative, it's making a statement about their past actions and saying that their past actions deserved what happened to them. Or it's having something bad happen to them as a challenge to them to see if the character makes the right choice based on the bad thing happening to them. And then if the character makes the right choice, they get rewarded. If they make the wrong choice, they get punished. I am not saying that karma exists in real life. That is not something that I can know. That is beyond my understanding. I am saying that in good writing, there is an element of narrative deservedness, or what you could call karma, kind of. I do like the perspective of it being about, like, you can't always have a perfect day. Like, Squidward wanted to have a perfect Sunday, but it got screwed up. The problem is I don't really think the episode was trying to be about that, because if the episode was trying to be about that, like, for example, Best Day Ever is undoubtedly about that. Best Day Ever is about someone expecting to have a really good day, and it wasn't for X, Y, and Z and the other thing. But in Best Day Ever, the things that make SpongeBob's Best Day Ever not the best day ever are a couple of different things that happen throughout the episode, like the nematodes infesting the Krusty Krab, Sandy getting a leak, Patrick breaking the thing, all that sort of stuff. It makes, there's a bunch of different things that happen to SpongeBob that are out of his control, and SpongeBob deals with them all in a certain way that helps tie in the theme of the episode, which is you don't always have your best day ever, but to help your friends is also very rewarding. Because in all of the situations where SpongeBob gets worked over in Best Day Ever, he, in those situations, helps his friends out. In Good Neighbors, the main perspective that is being commented on in Good Neighbors is more so SpongeBob. SpongeBob is more the character with the character flaw. That he's trying too hard to be a good neighbor, and he ends up screwing everything up for Squidward. And Squidward himself wanting to, like, have the perfect Sunday, it's a part of it. I see what you mean, but it's not like, I feel like it would have harped on it more. It would have been more like, this is the perfect Sunday. And I think it would have had more things that weren't just SpongeBob and Patrick messing things up. Like, a lot of the things that happened in Best Day Ever were out of any character's control. The nematodes, Sandy's dome getting a leak, Patrick's net breaking, and Squidward's reed breaking. These are all things that were out of those characters' control. Out of all four of those things, the Patrick one is the one that is the most another character's fault. Patrick breaks the net, and then he doesn't share the new net with SpongeBob, and SpongeBob doesn't get to use the new net, which I criticized, by the way. I thought that was poor writing in Best Day Ever. So I think that because all of the bad things that happen to Squidward are so tied up in another character's actions, things that other characters did, and the narrative doesn't meaningfully punish those other characters, it's not giving the statement on what SpongeBob and Patrick did was wrong. It's only saying what Squidward did was wrong, even though what Squidward did was less wrong, wanting to have a perfect day. Obviously, wanting to have a perfect day, oh, I need everything to be perfect, is something, obviously it's not morally wrong, but it is the kind of thing where you can be taught that you shouldn't have that kind of expectation because it's not good for yourself to have that expectation. But it makes no comment on SpongeBob and Patrick's character flaws because it doesn't meaningfully punish them. And that's really more of the issue with Good Neighbors. But I do think that you can take something positive out of that idea of, like, you don't always get to have your perfect Sunday like Squidward does in the episode. In SpongeBob, if the universe punishes characters like Plankton or Squidward more, sometimes for no reason, it's simply because of their attitude, in contrast to SpongeBob and Patrick's. That is true. That is correct. I also don't see much narrative difference between jellyfishing and Good Neighbors. Yes, you can say that in jellyfishing, it's more justified because Squidward is being antisocial, which can be a valid thing to be. But I wouldn't necessarily say that all happened to him was deserving. Clearly, some of the punishment went overboard just for comedic effect. Jellyfishing is also great. I think jellyfishing and Good Neighbors have huge differences. One main one is that in Good Neighbors, SpongeBob and Patrick literally invade Squidward's house. They appear in his house. In jellyfishing, Squidward leaves his house and is going on his bike, and SpongeBob and Patrick invite him jellyfishing while he's outside of his house. I think that's a pretty major difference. I guess they do break into his house to have the party with him, and then force him to go to Jellyfish Fields. But that's after Squidward said, "Oh, I can't jellyfish today, but I would love to if I wasn't so busy, I'd love to." And it's because of the disingenuousness from before. So that is a pretty meaningful difference. And also, again, like the character flaw being antisocial, which can be a valid thing to be. I get that. I don't want to go too much into like the whole, being antisocial. Like, there are times where being antisocial can be bad. It depends on the person. It's not morally wrong to be antisocial. It affects you, obviously, but you have to look at the actual like reasons. So like if you're someone who would have had a good and meaningful time with other people, hanging out with other people, but because of your own hangups, you don't hang out with other people because of maybe your own anxiety or your own this, you are making your life worse by being antisocial. Like, that is true. Like, like, obviously everyone has a right to, like, not hang out with people. You shouldn't be forced to hang out with people. But that's not really what the episode is trying to say. The episode is trying to say that Squidward would have had a good time jellyfishing with SpongeBob and Patrick if he wasn't so stuck up. That is clearly what it is communicating. And that's probably true for a lot of people. So, yes, you can look at it like, okay, like, yeah, someone just needs, like, a mental health day. They don't have to hang out with their friends all the time. Like, that's totally valid, sure. But that's not what the episode is talking about. The episode is talking about a pattern of antisocial behavior that is bad for Squidward and would probably be bad for you, too. And I think that is why he gets punished in the episode. That's why it's communicating that. Again, it's not saying that someone deserves to get, like, stung by jellyfish because they're a little antisocial. It's saying that being antisocial is bad. No narrative punishment would be deserved in real life, except in certain situations like going to jail or whatever, but like no one on earth deserves to get stung by jellyfish as a punishment. I would never be okay with that as like a punishment for a crime, like in a court of law. But in a narrative, something happening to a character isn't a good thing. It's not good that bad things happen to characters because we want the character to get hurt. It's just good because it shows that the behavior that they had was wrong, and that it teaches us that the opposite kind of behavior, that being more social in the case of jellyfishing, is a good thing. And in comparison, it's not like Squidward wasn't being equally deceitful in Good Neighbors. There are some situations he could have been more dodged if he was more upfront from the beginning, or if he was more in control of his emotions. I could see that. He is very angry. He does really go like right from 1 to 10 in an anger in Good Neighbors, like it's Sunday and throws SpongeBob out, or like breaking in the door with the big scream crash out, The problem with that is that SpongeBob and Patrick are just oblivious regardless. Like they're just completely oblivious that he's angry at them at all. So it almost doesn't matter if he was too angry or too this or that, because even if he wasn't angry, since SpongeBob and Patrick were oblivious, they would have acted the same. Now, if Squidward being angry somehow made SpongeBob and Patrick do what they did, like, for example, in jellyfishing, Squidward being dishonest made them have the party for him and take him jellyfishing, which led to him getting hurt when he was stuck in the wheelchair. Because Squidward was disingenuous earlier, that led to that happening. And the implication there is that if Squidward was upfront that he didn't want to go jellyfishing, or if Squidward wasn't such a stick in the mud and just went jellyfishing with them, and actually had fun doing it, those things wouldn't have happened. Whereas in Good Neighbors, because SpongeBob and Patrick are oblivious, even if Squidward went, well, SpongeBob, please, it's Sunday, so I would prefer it if you left my house. If he was like really polite, they still would have done the same stuff because they were oblivious. So it doesn't matter how Squidward reacted. So yeah, this is a good comment though, by the way. This person clearly very well thought out their positions. Like this is a very media literate comment. So I just want to say that, even though I'm not like, I have a few like rebuttals to what's being said here, but this is a very good comment. Just saying, I like the comment. Oh, even if he had acted perfectly, like I said, I believe that cruel episodes portray a part of life is simply real. Yeah, I do like what this person is saying. I do think that's a good. I agree with the perfect Sunday thing. I just think that the episode should have leaned more into that then, if that was going to be the story. Karma in fiction is cathartic. It's a simple guide for storytelling, and seeing an antagonistic force getting its just desserts and is an illustrative way of teaching children a lesson. Yeah, they just said this is the exact thing that I said earlier. See, this person is very media literate. Must be a fan of my channel. Must have watched a lot. Very media literate, understanding this. Literate, I mean, positive. Media literate in the good way. But I believe that while it can be uncomfortable seeing it, especially as a kid, as an adult, and as you grow up, crude portrayals are the most important and nuanced of them all. Yeah, I can agree with that. By the way, if you're open, I believe Squids on a Bus is an often overlooked modern example of Squidward torture done right. That's my hot take. I have not seen this episode, but I can maybe check it out based on this person's recommendation. I feel like antisocial is a tricky thing. It's kind of a bad lesson that leads to social pressure is good. It feels at odds with cartoons that teach be yourself even when society puts you down. There's some other comments that talk about the antisocial stuff. I have more thoughts on it. We'll get to some more of it in a bit. I was surprised that Boating Buddies and Cephalopod Lodge didn't at least get an honorable mention. Yeah, so originally... So I did my Krusty Krab destruction video where I ranked every time the Krusty Krab got destroyed. Originally, I thought about doing a ranking every Squidward torture episode. It just would have been too many. Like, hey, support the channel, guys. Like, if I had like a team of editors, you know, if I had a big crew, maybe we could make that video happen one day, ranking every Squidward torture episode. It wouldn't have been feasible. Yeah, there's always going to be ones that get left out. Cephalopod Lodge almost made it into the video. Boating Buddies not so much. Boating Buddies is it's a shorter episode. But Cephalopod Lodge was like next episode. If this video had one more episode, it would have been Cephalopod Lodge. Like that was like the next video. That was like the next episode that I was thinking of. It just didn't make it. It was basically, I wanted to do Slide Whistle Stooges and That Sinking Feeling because they are parallel. And Choir Boys was just the other middle SpongeBob episode that just beat out Cephalopod Lodge. Just because Choir Boys is a worse episode than Cephalopod Lodge. So Choir Boys, I had more to say. So Cephalopod Lodge just didn't make it. Yeah, didn't get an honorable mention. Yeah, I mean, if I honorable mentioned all of the other Squidward torture, it just wouldn't have... I wouldn't have wanted to mention Cephalopod Lodge, because if I mentioned Cephalopod Lodge, I would have just done a whole other section about it, you know? So I'd rather just not mention it at all than not mention it enough. Literally the premise of both episodes, that Squidward is minding his own business and SpongeBob or Patrick are just coming to make his life miserable, disguising his good friendship. Yeah, that's pretty much... In Boating Buddies. Oh, Boating Buddies. Sorry, Boating Buddies. I was mixing up Boating Buddies with Boat Smarts. Boating Buddies is when Squidward is in Mrs. Puff's boating school. That's a full-length episode. Boat Smarts is the shorter episode. Yeah, Boating Buddies is worse than Boat Smarts. Yeah, they're just explaining why they are. I'm not gonna read the whole comment just because it's. Maybe I should. Should I read the whole comment? I'll read the whole comment. In Cephalopod Lodge, Squidward just wants to enjoy his club, which SpongeBob and Patrick invade, getting Squidward kicked out. To compensate, they start their own club, but put Squidward through torturous initiations, such as a jellyfish sting on the tongue and attempting to help him get back into the other club, only to stupidly blow his cover and get him kicked out again. This is similar to Good Neighbors, except the boundaries they cross and the pain they cause is so explicitly bad that they're oblivious this crosses over into near psychopathic territory, almost similar to Ink Lemonade. And worst of all, both episodes are left unresolved, with Squidward having to suffer the same agony all over again. Yeah, Cephalopod Lodge. Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time, but it would have been like next. Why are the fishes from Bikini Bottom vegans? I know Steven was a vegan, but ignoring that, what is the reason behind it? There are non-sentient fishes and other sea creatures. It just would muddy the waters of the show. When you have shows where the characters are animals, you always have to like do things to ignore the whole concept of eating meat. And I think SpongeBob just would rather just ignore it. Is the second one the episode with the squid cult thing? Yeah, that would be Cephalopod Lodge. It's not really a cult. I know it looks kind of like a cult. It makes it a little culty, but it's just supposed to be like a regular club. Oh, hold on. Get that back. Okay, here's an antisocial related comment. Being antisocial, or more accurately asocial, is not a bad thing. Some people simply prefer doing their own things and spending less time in social situations, and that is completely fine. Directly letting people down just because you do not want to participate can be perceived as rude or unkind by neighbors or others around you. Even if you personally find joy from not having to participate afterward, many people and even whole cultures view it differently. Because of this, many cultures have developed ways to decline in a polite and considerate manner. Changing the topic or saying that you are busy are examples of social strategies people use to protect others' feelings and maintain harmony. These actions are generally positive because they help people live together respectfully. The existence of these polite strategies and soft letdown does not justify anything in a narrative sense. They simply show how people try to soften rejection in everyday life. Okay, I'll talk about this from two lenses. First off, I'll talk about it in the sense of within the universe of the show. Squidward, in the show, it is communicated that Squidward would be happier if he hung out with SpongeBob and Patrick. If Squidward, and only Squidward, were more social, he would be happier. The reason that Squidward is not social is not for a good reason. It's because Squidward thinks that he is above SpongeBob and Patrick. Squidward thinks that he is more mature than them, so he doesn't participate in the activities that he finds childish because he thinks he's better than them. And then every time we see Squidward participate in a childish activity, he enjoys it. So, in that situation, it is bad for Squidward to be antisocial. That does not mean that every single person who doesn't want to partake in every activity is doing something bad or wrong. It means that if there is a thing, and now I'm talking about how you can apply this to you as a person, if there is a thing that you would have enjoyed, like let's say you're someone and you have an opportunity to go to like a board game night or something, like you have, it's like, like we're meeting for a board game night, and you're a kind of person where you're a little antisocial, or maybe as this person calls it, asocial. And you're a person who's you're a little nervous. You have anxiety, maybe you're not like that close with people, maybe you have trouble in social situations. In that situation, you obviously have every right to not have to go to the board game night. But let's just talk about it in the sense of just with that one person socially, they would have had a better time had they gone to the board game night. It just would have been better for their life. It would have helped their anxiety. They would have made friends. They would have felt better. It would have been a net positive to their life. It is a bad thing that they were asocial in that situation. It was bad for them. It made things worse for them. Now, that's a specific situation. It applies to specific situations. Let's say there's a different situation where someone gets invited to a board game night, but they're going through grief. They lost a pet recently, and going to a board game night just isn't good for them. at that point, or it's a board game night, but the people who are hosting it are, maybe like it's a board game night and the people who are hosting it are not very nice. They know that they're people who they're not going to enjoy being around them. Or they don't like board games and they can partake in something else. Like, I do think, like, obviously you're not forced to be social. You're not forced to be this, but for most people, it is better to be social at times. Being completely antisocial, being completely asocial, it is bad for you. And obviously everyone's situation is different. There are some people where being a little more asocial is better for them. Absolutely. But I don't think we should go into this idea of like, well, Squidward just didn't want to go jellyfishing, because that's what the narrative is communicating that. And maybe if you think that, I'm not specifically accusing this person of this, because they might not. They might be fine. They might be asocial in the perfect amount of times. But I think that if you're someone who thinks that, if you think, oh, well, like, I'm asocial, just introspect. Just think about when you turn down social interactions. Think about why. Think about why you're turning down social interactions. Think about what you would have gotten out of those social interactions, and if what you would have gotten out of those social interactions would have been a net positive that would have been better than overcoming the anxiety that you had in going out. Or whatever other hang up you have about being with other people. These are all important things to think about. Everyone's situation is different. In the situation of Squidward, how it is portrayed in the episode is that Squidward would have had a better time going jellyfishing, and that is what the narrative is trying to say, is that Squidward should have just hung out with SpongeBob and Patrick. He would have enjoyed it. He shouldn't have acted like he was better than it, and that would have worked out better for them. That is what the narrative is communicating. Sometimes I think about how Squidward tried to be social, but it never seemed to work. Like when he was in Squidville, and when he was seeking a +1. Speaking of board game night, how's Patrick the game? I haven't played it yet. I bought it, but I haven't played it yet. Hey, so this is very off topic, and I don't know if you do answer comments like this, but since I respect you as a writer and reviewer, I want to ask your opinion on a problem I'm facing in regards to that. Ooh. I am working on a video on the game Off by Unproductive Fun Time, and for that video, I also want to analyze some of the themes presented in the game. Particularly, I'm struggling with its Christian imagery. From what I could find, it relates to the themes of both cleansing Armageddon and the concept of death and rebirth. However, due to Off's nature of surrealism and its main developer's apparent reputation as a dada, I don't know what that is, I am having a problem with figuring out which parts of the game are meant to be there for the purpose of actually conveying its themes, and which parts are there simply as a commentary on the nature of themes in video games, or even just exist because they thought Bible names sounded cool, a la Evangelion. How do you think I should handle that in the video? Okay, so this person's asking, that's okay to ask an off-topic question. It's more about me as a creator. I'm not familiar with the game that you're talking about. From what I could find, it relates to the... I think... Okay, so to set your mind at ease, I'm having a problem with figuring out which parts of the game are meant to be there for the purpose of actually conveying themes. Okay, so you're thinking too much... in this regard, you are thinking too much about author intent and not thinking about audience interpretation, or more specifically, your interpretation. So I talked about this a bit in my my Magic Conch video, where I talked about, which was also about religion. I talked about author intent and audience interpretation, which are different things. So they're different things, but they're related. So audience interpretation. So when an author puts something out there, what you see is what's out there. And what you interpret from what's out there is usually valid, unless you're being like willingly dishonest or like completely miss the point. But most of the time, you're kind of fine. You know, so like when I talked about Club SpongeBob, I talked about how it was an episode that was about religion. And I said that it's possible that the writers weren't even thinking of religion when they wrote the episode, which they probably were thinking of religion when they wrote the episode. It has some very clear references to it. But even if they weren't thinking about those things when they wrote the episode, it doesn't matter, because what they put out there applies through my interpretation to real world religious problems. So that was why I used my interpretation. So for you, you could research, what the actual developers' opinions are or their feelings are, and maybe that could be interesting to your audience. But I think that you should focus on your interpretation. What does the work of art as it's presented mean to you? And what do you think that we as the audience should take from it? Because really that's all that matters. Author intent can matter. There are times where you can look at something and be like, oh, well, like the author actually said this, it didn't mean this. But honestly, I don't know if that really matters too much. Like it can, because you could also do like, you could interpret something to mean something that has literally nothing to do with the work at hand. Yeah, so it's so it does depend, but I think I think just use your interpretation, and just lean into your interpretation. And don't worry about which parts of the game are meant to be there for the purpose of actually conveying its themes and which parts are there simply commentary on the nature of themes. It doesn't matter. What matters is what it means to you and what you think it means broadly. If the author didn't, like, let's say the author named a character after someone biblical, and like you said, a la Evangelion, I don't know much about Evangelion, but I guess that you're saying that in Evangelion they named a lot of things biblically because the name sounded cool. Sure, you could say that. You could be like, oh yeah, well, I just named the character because I thought that the name sounded cool. But if there is a connection there, if that biblical name actually means something to the character, then that is still valid, you know, in a way, even if they didn't intend it. By the way, great video as always. Thank you. You posted a comment yourself? Yeah, for sure. I could do it right now. I could read your comment next. That's fine. All you got to do is ask. Where's your comment? I sorted it by newest. Do you have a different name? Did you post it under a different account? Did you comment on this video, the Squidward torture video? Hold up. Use SpongeBoy TT1 instead of sometimes later in essays because it is the official font used in SpongeBob credits. Oh, am I using the wrong font? That's funny. I'll look that up. Maybe I'll fix my font in later videos. Hold up. Wait, you didn't post your comment? Is it not there? All right, well, I guess let me know when your comment's up because I'll read yours. You always make great videos, dude. Another amazing one as always. And your voice is great to listen to in the background while I do stuff, so I enjoy it a lot. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Try again. SpongeBoy TT1. It's the name of the font. So they said sometime later. So I like to use the SpongeBob font in my videos, just because it's a SpongeBob font and it's recognizable. And the font that I am using is called Sometime Later. So this person correctly identified it. Apparently SpongeBoy TT1 is the more official font. I did notice that Sometime Later, yeah, it had like it didn't have a capital I. So my I's are lowercase L's. So maybe that's a correct one. I added a link. Yeah, you can't. I don't think you can add links in YouTube comments. Well, don't add a link if you have. Yeah, don't try to like link to stuff. It won't let you. I want to use that font now. It's a fun font. It's a fun font. All right. Well, let me know when you post your new comment because I'd like to read it. I didn't leave a comment, but I did want to say putting up 2 40-minute videos in 1 week is super impressive. Good job, UNM. Oh, well, thank you. 2 40-minute videos? I only did 1. My last week video was 20 minutes. Are you talking about my Krusty Krab video? Because that was around that. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. But thank you. Thank you. The Pokemon one on the other channel. Oh, I forgot about that. I forgot about my own video. Yeah, that one was a lot easier. The Pokemon one was a lot easier to edit. A lot harder to write, though. You're so right. I did put up a big one. Your comment's not showing up? Sorry, man. You want to put it in the chat? You copy it in the chat. I'll read it in the chat if you'd like. Where's your bold and brash painting from? Oh, they're referring to my... Here it is. They're referring to my... Let's see if it's in the frame. They're referring to my bold and brash. It was painted. It was painted by the channel artist. This isn't like merch. My fiance, who also does the art for this channel, painted this. So it's an interpretation of bold and brash. Yeah, it's a little thicker than the usual bold and brash, but I like it. I like it as its own custom version of it. Yeah, it's a different bold and brash, and I like to have it in the videos because it's homemade. It's not made in a factory, a bomb factory. Sponge Truth to sabotage and scream. Oh no, are we dipping out? Is that what's happening? Sponge Truth is sabotaging the stream. He's got an AI after me. I didn't know it wasn't merch. It's really cool. Yeah, they do sell bold and brash like in Hot Topic and stuff, but I like my custom one. I don't think it will fit with the other pieces in my collection. I wanted to try a hand in fixing the idea of ink lemonade for a comment, but making it simple would probably be somewhat hard, so I couldn't do it in time. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's really like one of the only episodes, because I'm like such a big like, oh, like I could rewrite this SpongeBob episode. I could make it great. And I looked at ink lemonade and I just kind of had to tap out. I just had to be like, no, I can't. This episode just shouldn't have been made. It being custom makes it have so much more heart. I know, right? I think that's so nice. I love that it's painted, you know, rather than, not that there'd be anything wrong with like someone buying the official merch and putting it in the background of their videos, but I think that there's something nice about that. In a past live stream, I was talking about using AI as inspiration, but I did not explain it very well, so I'll try to explain it better this time. What I was talking about is based on this character they are doing, but they are not straight up asking AI to generate a weird Sonic so that they can trace it. Did I explain it well, and what are your thoughts on it? You didn't really explain it that well, but I kind of got an idea. Basically, if you're talking about AI, if you ask AI to generate anything, stop. You've already gone too far. If it's like, if you click a thing and it says generate, and AI generates a thing, and that thing was created without human intent, as anything that AI generates would, just stop. Don't do that. That's bad. You're making the world worse every time you do that. Yeah, there are no exceptions. No exceptions. None whatsoever. Ink Lemonade would have been better if there were kick-ass action scenes and fighting missiles. Would have been something, at least. Hey, I would just like to say thank you for reading my comments from stream in last video. I was not expecting you to actually read my comments, mainly because most of my comments on other YouTube videos get buried, so thank you very much. Oh, well, I'm so glad. I also like to say, please don't give up because your videos don't get many views. My videos do get a lot of views. What do you mean? My videos get a pretty good amount of views. In my opinion, it's all about having fun and inspiring others. I wish you the best of luck. Edit, can you explain some things easier, such as 5-4? I fully understand things sometimes. I'm confused what they're referring to. It is on continued wiki on fandom. Search it up. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Sorry, I'm not really sure what you're referring to. They might be referring to how you mentioned the Sponge Truths video, their views compared to yours in that comment. Oh, gotcha. Because I get similar views to Sponge Truths. I mean, that's unfortunate that an AI channel gets like, you know, that posts 3 times a week, gets like around the same kind of views as my videos. Sponge Truths gets like a little more than me because they're brute forcing, and they're probably botting their views at least a little bit. Probably I actually thought another theory with Sponge Truths too. I think it's not so much that they bought their views, but I think they bought their comments. And having more comments on a video does push it out more. So that's probably what they do. If they bought all their views, I think they'd get in trouble because you're basically just scamming YouTube at that point. Oh, that's you? For me personally, no. So answering the question, is Squidward torture bad writing? For me personally, no. Especially since I believe that a lot of Squidward torture episodes are really, really funny. A character being the butt of the joke doesn't automatically make the episode bad. You gotta account for everything in the episode and not just a character mistreatment in a comedy show. I still go back to episodes like Good Neighbors, Choir Boy, Ink Lemonade, Pineapple Fever because of the funny character interactions, amazing jokes, and the good animation backgrounds. Choir Boys and Pineapple Fever do have terrible cleanup boards, though. Overall, I just think those episodes are funny and season 6 is underrated. Oh, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. You like... Yeah, I say this a lot about, like, when I talk about criticizing episodes, is that every episode, even the ones that I criticize, will usually have something to enjoy. I guess I kind of didn't say that about Ink Lemonade. Ink Lemonade's pretty bad for me. But, like, Choir Boys, like, you know, like, it's still a high-quality, you know, animated show. Good Neighbors, I will admit, when I rewatch Good Neighbors, I was genuinely enjoying it as I watched it. I stand by all the flaws that I said were in it, you know, but I was genuinely enjoying it. Choir Boys and Ink Lemonade, I did not enjoy. I just did not enjoy them. I'm glad you enjoyed them. I'm glad you found things to enjoy in them. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. The character being the butt of the jokes does not automatically make the episode bad. But I think that these episodes are bad. I haven't seen Pineapple Fever, but I think that these episodes are bad because they aren't narratively deserved. I mean, Ink Lemonade is well animated. True, it is. Yeah, everything is. It's always well animated. The artists always do a good job. Also, this is a good video. I like how while you discuss about the episode, you talk about the writing structures, and the writing should have purpose for character actually deserves to get obliterated. I just think for a comedy, a lot of the time, it doesn't need to follow that, especially when it's animated. If there's a lot of good jokes and decent animation, to me, it's good. No, I actually don't. I disagree. So I think that it does need to follow that because, and there's 2 reasons it needs to follow that. One, it is more entertaining when it follows that. When, like you said, it's a comedy, so comedy is important to you. That's awesome. That's awesome that comedy's important to you. But episodes that have meaning are funnier. So the episodes that I talked about that had more narrative deservedness for Squidward are funnier. They're more enjoyable episodes. Like, obviously, funnier is subjective, sure. But, like, in a general consensus, the camping episode is a more well-liked episode than Choir Boys. Like, that is a fact at that point. You know, it doesn't mean that you could say, oh, it's objectively better. That's not true. But, like, there is no such thing as objectively better in talking about art. But more people like the camping episode as opposed to Choir Boys. Like, that is just the case. And the reason for that is that the episode is funnier, and the reason that the episode is funnier is because it follows a lot of that narrative stuff. The other reason that it is important for narratives to be meaningful is because it just it provides social good. Narratives teaching us about something makes the population better. It makes us more thoughtful and empathetic. That's why I think that every show should have it. It just makes the world better. To argue against that is to argue that the world should be worse. I'm not saying you're arguing that the world should be worse. You're only saying that it's not something that matters to you as much when you watch a show. But I do think that it is important to understand why it is important. And also know that you are not losing out. The most important thing for, I guess, you to know is you care about comedy. You care about having an entertaining experience when you watch something. That is not at risk when stories become more meaningful. If anything, they get more funny when they're more meaningful. Let's see. Valid. Oh, thank you for being in the chat. Yeah, the commenter who left this comment put valid in the chat. Well, thank you. Hey, I'm glad you were here for this chat. Yeah, it's just I'm just trying to pump up your media literacy. You clearly have media literacy. I just think that in that sort of discussion, it strengthens our media literacy. I genuinely thought the Squidward takes control of his house clip was intended to be a reference jab at Mr. Enter Squidward torture video. Given that, I think people were getting sick and tired of his rants and the subsequent videos similar to his or other bigger cartoon reviewers. You know what? I thought it was Mr. Enter too. I did. I thought it was Mr. Enter. I actually looked at the Mr. Enter video that they're talking about because I thought that was where it was, and I heard the voice, and I was like, wait, that's not the voice from the meme. And yeah, it turned out that it was a different video. But it is similar. I almost mentioned Mr. Enter because I did watch a few Mr. Enter videos from around that same time period to research this video, and it is that same problem. It is that very surface level critiquing the Mr. Enter videos. They're just a little better edited because that was a more professional channel back then. But I decided not to call out Mr. Enter specifically because I felt like if I did, I would have to call out a couple of different YouTubers. I wouldn't want to single him out. And I decided, I was like, I don't need to go over all the different YouTubers who talk like this. Instead, I'm just going to say security system takes control of Squidward's house. And then I'm just going to say that it was a general attitude. But Mr. Enter is kind of the prime example of that sort of kind of reviewing that happened back then. Another one, yeah. Hey, Robostrope, who is a channel member with the $15. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Your content made me realize why I liked my favorite media. Like, I knew I liked them, but didn't necessarily know why I liked them so much, if that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I it's one of those things, I say it a lot, where I say, you don't know, but you know. Like I say that sometimes, we're like, the reason that we like stuff is that we is because of the things that I talk about, but we don't fully know it. We don't fully put it into words all the time. And that's kind of what I try to put into words, is why that thing is. Because I think that there is a value in understanding that. Even though we inherently understand it, I think that there is a lot of value in understanding it. And that's what I try to produce. So thank you so much. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. And thank you for being a channel member. I don't know how this even happens. Do the writers just get bored and can't be bothered to use basic storytelling mechanics? Plus, why do they choose to make these awful jokes? If you're a comedy writer, then write something that makes you laugh or the writing room laugh, because unless they keep getting copy-pasted versions of the same writer to fill the room, this material shouldn't make someone laugh. Yeah, I mean, I'd say a lot of what this commenter is talking about is deadlines. Yeah, deadlines. It's because it's a business. This does happen. I am not against the idea of, big studios. Obviously, the fact that you have big studios is the reason that shows that are as high quality as SpongeBob can exist. But that is a pitfall that you get where it's like, okay, we have an order of 20 episodes for the season, and then they pay the writers to be in the writer's room for XY amount of time. Maybe they don't give the writers enough time. Maybe the writers aren't that good. And there's just a quota. Like you have to make this many episodes with this many jokes. And sometimes it just doesn't work out, and like they should do better. I'm not like excusing them. Like they should do a better job, or the executives should give them more time to do a better job. But that is why that happens. And yeah, if you're a comedy writer, yeah, it becomes your job. Like there probably is a point where in some of these worst SpongeBob episodes, like I hope the writers love their jobs, but there could be a lot of times where they're in the writer's room and they're just like, I don't know, like I guess we'll have a joke where Patrick peels off his skin and we'll just do that. And everyone's like, yeah, I guess that'll fill the time. Sure. Like that's possible. Like, and I don't know, I'm not there. How I'd fix Ink Lemonade. Okay, so this person is doing what I chose not to do. When I got to Ink Lemonade, I just straight up said, I don't think this episode should have been made. I didn't even try to rewrite it. And usually I rewrite episodes. But Ink Lemonade was one that was like, wow. How I'd fix, this person tried to fix Ink Lemonade. Hey, I commend them for the attempt. Let's see what they came up with. How I'd fix Ink Lemonade is, 1, I'd make it so Krabs is making the black lemonade. It's more in character for him than Patrick. Yeah, that would have helped a lot. 2, when SpongeBob finds out, he's morally horrified and tries to sabotage Krabs' attempts to scare Squidward. The customers find out and get angry. Krabs is punished, losing all the money he made and possibly being forced to go through his own haunted house, not unlike the one he put Squidward through. Yeah, that's pretty solid. A few issues with it. One, I mean, like, this is a good idea, but, like, I would say one thing that this doesn't solve is that the premise of the episode is that they're drinking the ink, and they think that the ink is really delicious, and then they find out that it's Squidward's ink, and they're like, ew, gross. It's still that episode. And what I said was that that's a pretty bad cartoon trope, but I also said that the South Park Asperger's episode and the Rick and Morty pasta episode did that trope really well. And the reason that both of those episodes succeeded is because they used that trope to comment on their own show. South Park used that trope to comment on its own show, and Rick and Morty used it to comment on a very serious subject. So the only way to do a trope that is this ridiculous or that tired and played out is to turn it around and make it something really serious. And SpongeBob isn't really that kind of show. SpongeBob doesn't really do a lot of episodes that are like really deeply serious. So I just don't think SpongeBob is the right show to do they eat or drink a gross thing and find out it's gross and they're all like, bleh, that was gross. This solves the narrative deservedness. It solves that. It makes it Mr. Krabs. It makes it make sense that he did it to Squidward. It makes Mr. Krabs get comeuppance because he's the one who was doing it. Like that all is well and good, but it doesn't solve one of the bigger problems with it, which is that it's this is a gross thing that we find out is gross episode. That would be another requirement to fixing Ink Lemonade, is how do we solve that? It's also kind of weird that they just literally drink the ink. Like, it wasn't like they put the ink in lemonade. It's just that they just drink the ink itself, which actually is a thing. Apparently squid ink is a delicacy. Like, people do actually eat or drink, depending on how it's prepared, squid ink. It is a thing. Like, it is edible. I didn't know that, but like, it feels like squid ink isn't edible. Like, it feels like it's excrement, which makes it seem a little grosser. But apparently squid ink is edible. But it's weird because it's Squidward, and Squidward is like a guy. So it's weird to drink a thing that came from a guy rather than like drinking milk from like a cow that's an animal. We just have a block to that, There's nothing in life that we eat that comes from a human, unless you're a baby and it's, babies get milk from the mother. That's probably about it. But other than that, you don't, there isn't like a thing that humans produce that like other people eat or drink. And we would find that really weird and messed up if we did. And the episode just does not engage with that at all. Even if squid ink is a delicacy, it's still an uncomfortable situation because of that. But yeah. Someone said, oh, wouldn't that make it just a worse rehash of Jellyfish Hunter? Krabs finds out Squidward jellyfish produce something delicious. Krabs abuse them to make more money. SpongeBob finds out and fights Krabs against his crab. Yeah, it would just be Jellyfish Hunter. True. True. With how insightful and thoughtful your narrative analyses are, I would love to see you try your hand at writing your own little SpongeBob episode about a message you would like to convey using these characters. Would love to watch your narration and a post-episode analysis explanation, just an idea I had. I thought about doing that. I might do that. I'd have to be a bit bigger of a channel to do it. I don't feel like a video like that would do very well, unfortunately. But I think as I grow as a channel, I'll consider that. In one of your videos, I talked about if someone made art for fun, but the thing you wrote also applies to things like fanfics as well. Like, all games and music should receive it. But what about fanfics? No, I think if you make something like just for yourself, then you're kind of fine. It's like, it's still okay. So if you make, like, you're asking if a fanfic doesn't follow like the storytelling rules, like it doesn't have like narrative deservedness or deep themes or something. Well, you're not, if you're presenting it as something to be taken seriously, then I'm going to take it seriously. If you don't present something as something that should be taken seriously, then I'm not going to take it seriously. You didn't mean for it to be taken seriously. So like, you're fine. Like, if it's a fan fiction, it doesn't affect anybody. But a SpongeBob episode is broader media. It's presented to a mass audience. So a SpongeBob episode not having good themes is a net negative for society. Whereas someone writing a fan fiction and that fan fiction not having themes, like, I guess it's not good if that person is like trying to practice writing or something like that, but like usually it's fine. Like, if you're just like trying to be like, what if this character, what if Harry Potter hung out with Luke Skywalker and you wrote like a fan fiction, I'm not going to like, I'm not going to be like, yeah, you better follow narrative rules or whatever. It's going to be fine. But if you did, like, I present this to a mass audience, like this should be taken seriously, then I'm going to take it seriously. I take things as seriously as them being put out is supposed to be taken. That's how that works. Enjoy the last vid. Keep it up. Thank you. Thank you. This is another Ink Lemonade rewrite. I'll read one more. Sure. Personally, I think there's a way to rewrite Ink Lemonade. It has a potential message. Don't exploit people for profit. Honestly, the changes will be simple. That's what the Rick and Morty episode is about, by the way. The Rick and Morty pasta episode. This is a good episode, by the way. Not every Rick and Morty hits. That one did. 1. Paint Patrick or whoever is exploiting Squidward, possibly Mr. Krabs, as the bad guy through and through. Make him seem bad during the events of the episode, either careless at best or malicious at worst, not just stupid and ignorant. Yeah, I agree with that. Making Patrick very ignorant and stupid did not help. Give them no plausible deniability for their actions. They must understand that their business is hurting Squidward and have them choose to continue anyway. Agreed. Make Squidward the victim from start to finish. At the end of the actual episode, he changes his tune and gets on board with inking people, even though it's plainly clear that he dislikes squirting ink from his nose. This makes no sense. Once the inking stops, let him be done with it and show that he is relieved to do so. Oh, at the end of the episode, he changes in tunes and starts inking. So make Squidward the victim from start to finish. Okay, yeah. Got it. So don't, yeah. Well, if you make him the victim, well, I guess you could make him the victim without making it, it would still be narratively undeserved, but it could still motivate the story because you're hurting someone else. It would actually make us feel bad for him. This one's obvious, but tone down the gross out. Yeah, pretty obvious, yeah. There are plenty of ways to scare someone besides ripping your skin off. There's plenty of ways to show squid ink or just exploitation in general without having his nostrils protrude and imply similar to a nosebleed. Yeah. Show me anyone who knows about the exploitation of Squidward and have them disagree with it. SpongeBob is a natural choice, seeing as he is the main protagonist, is supposed to be the moral stand-in for the viewer, and in universe, he actually likes and cares about the well-being of Squidward. And finally, at the end of the episode, show a genuine conscience for the exploiter's actions. Instead of the fish just getting grossed out and running away, show them angry with Patrick. Instead of SpongeBob just not really liking it, show that he genuinely despises the actions. Yeah, pretty, well, it's a long comment. Pretty standard rewrite. I feel like it still wouldn't be an amazing episode, but it's something. That's kind of why I didn't really want to rewrite it. It's just not. I probably would have said something similar if I had talked about rewriting it, because it just wouldn't, even if they did all this stuff, and I appreciate this person and the other person for trying to rewrite it, but I feel like if they did all this stuff, it still just wouldn't be a very good episode. It still just would have been awful. That just it just wouldn't really work. Completely disengaging with unreasonable people sounds great, but then you remember that the majority of people are unreasonable. So I was talking about how in Club SpongeBob, it teaches a lesson about how not to deal with unreasonable people. And they're saying the majority of people are unreasonable. That is true. Well, so Club SpongeBob does both. Club SpongeBob says you should disengage from unreasonable people if you can, but if you get stuck with unreasonable people like he does in the kelp forest, you also shouldn't do that. So it teaches about both. Also, it doesn't show how you should respond to unreasonable people. It only shows Squidward being driven a little real insanity at the very end, which is what dealing with unreasonable people leads to, whether you're accepting it or not. I guess, but I guess you could also assume the opposite. I don't think it has to show you what it would have looked like if Squidward was like, oh, you guys believe in the magic conch? Well, I think it might just be a toy, but sure, the magic conch helps you, but maybe I'll try to find a way out of here if he was a little more reasonable. You could assume that that's the opposite by watching the episode. They don't have to show the opposite, but I get what you mean. I have experience from both, and neither are mentally good. It can be quite maddening. I had to stop intentionally watching political stuff because of that, but again, ignoring isn't a choice when most, Even if it was 10%, that would be too much to avoid. People are unreasonable in some significant way, and when most people are unreasonable, ignoring it is itself a major flaw. Here's a great quote for what happens when especially unreasonable people are allowed to take over. If it was not Hitler or Himmler who abducted me, beat me, and shot my family, it was the shoemaker, the milkman, the neighbor, who received a uniform and then believed they were the master race. The Nazis probably weren't even the majority, if it's my point, we're still alive. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, it's the people who are unreasonable that do it to you, but yeah. This person is referring to when I say criticizing the episode from within the world. Okay, before I watch the rest of the video, I want to thank you on that point because I do tend to fall into that trap a lot. Plenty of people do. It's normal. Especially with characters I like. It's a good tip to think about when it comes to reviewing media altogether. Yeah, it's very common when you're reviewing media, you look at yourself like you look at the media as if you were in the world. It's very common. Very common. I'm glad that I was able to make that clear to you. The lost mattress should get discussed in this video as it's a perfect example of a Squidward torture done right, as Squidward brought it all on himself for the story. Yeah, the lost mattress. I thought about the lost mattress. I think that sinking feeling was the one that I preferred to talk about between the two. It was kind of a toss-up. Could have been either one. I just want to say that I really love your videos. I'm a huge SpongeBob fan and an equally huge nerd, but obviously nobody's going to take me seriously if I start analyzing SpongeBob like it's Shakespeare. So when I found this channel, I was generally so excited to keep it the group. I'm so glad people can feel heard with that. I'm glad that resonates. I'm glad that resonates with people. They're just saying, security system takes control of Squidward's house. See some others. Hey, Mr. Jackson, as someone who's been watching you for a bit, I wanted to get something off my chest. Saying every SpongeBob episode needs an arc and moral is like saying chocolate needs to be healthy. Sure, it can benefit from it, but it isn't necessary, LMAO. Okay. So shows are not food. I'll start there on this. Shows are not food. Food is about the sense of taste, and shows are about the sense of sight and hearing, and also on a deeper level to expand your mind. So this is like, I get the analogy. They're saying that an episode with a moral is equivalent to healthy food, and an episode without a moral is equivalent to unhealthy food. So here's the main difference. Unhealthy food usually, not always, unhealthy food usually tastes better, whereas healthy food usually doesn't taste as good. There is in the most part, obviously that doesn't apply to everything. There could be like delicious things that are healthy, usually if it's more expensive. But like usually that's the dichotomy, right? More healthy food tastes less good, and unhealthy food tastes more good. There's a reverse, there's a reverse relationship with those things. This is not the case with media. With TV shows, episodes of shows or movies, any narrative media that is more meaningful, has better morals, has better themes, is also more entertaining. It's a direct relationship. As the morals and as the themes get better, the entertainment value gets better. It's a direct relationship. Also, food does not have the taste of food. When food tastes good, when food is healthy, that's good. Obviously, more healthy people, less sick people. Also another thing. So one thing that I say too is that I think that every narrative should be expected to have a lesson and morals and themes, like deep themes. Every narrative does have a lesson. It has to, but like, I mean, like good lessons. Like if it doesn't have good lessons and it's shallow, that's worse. And I think that's worse because any piece of media that doesn't have something deep, any piece of media that is shallow, is now a part of the media landscape and is taking attention away from pieces of media that are deeper. So the more shallow pieces of media are out there, the less thoughtful and less empathetic of a population we have, okay? I believe that this is a fact, that the more good media we have, the better of a population we have. Now, if you apply this to food, if every piece of food was healthy, if there was no chocolate, if chocolate did not exist, or no anything unhealthy, no greasy this, no greasy that, we would all be healthier. Most people would live longer, but there would be a little less like joy. You know, there is something that would be lacking in the world. But this is not the case if every piece of media was deep, because movies and TV shows would still be good. They would still be good. So we would not lose out on that. But also, food does not necessarily affect morality. Like, it just doesn't. Like, sure, giving people food is morally good, making sure people are fed, you know, making sure that, like, you don't have, like, widespread hunger and all that sort of stuff. Like, food can be tied into morality in the sense of, do people have enough food? Are you hoarding food? Are you sharing food? But food itself, when you eat the food, the pleasure that you get from eating the food, the pleasure that you get does not affect your morality. No one has ever eaten a piece of food and eating, like if you have like a really good salad or whatever, some like delicious salad dish, it doesn't make you a better person. It could make you a healthier person, but it doesn't make you like a better person morally, to like eat a good piece of food. Whereas movies and TV shows can make people better people morally because they learn lessons from them. So in that regard, like, I will say that the social expectation that I think should be stronger, that all narrative media should have deep themes, would only promote positive outcomes. Whereas an attitude towards like all food should be like this much healthy can be very authoritarian and can be very negative. Now, in a lot of ways, some of our food is too unhealthy and also possibly not ethically sourced. Like, you use chocolate as an example. Like, chocolate's made with like slave labor. So like, I mean, I still eat chocolate. Like, sure, you could say that I'm like a hypocrite or whatever. But like, if I got to like press the button and it was like, yeah, all chocolate slave labor goes away, but you can't eat chocolate anymore, I would choose to not eat chocolate anymore and all the slave labor would go away. Obviously. But like, you know, like, so like there are, but that doesn't really have any bearing on its health benefits. That's more of a different consequence. But, yeah, so I think that it's that those things are not as connected, to morality. So it's like, it's a comparison that like kind of makes sense when you like first hear it, but when you actually think about it, it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. Bad media is much more bad than bad food. But bad food is still a problem, by the way. Like, there could be more regulations on food that could make it better, especially in America. Obviously, that's being co-opted by insane people like RFK Jr. with, like, all that nonsense. Like, I'm not promoting any of that garbage. But, like, there is an element of, like, oh, yeah, like, our food is our food can be way too bad, way too rampant. So, in a way, like, both should maybe be better, but I would say at the bottom line, it's okay that in a perfect world, it would be okay that some foods are not healthy, but all pieces of media would have deep themes. So that is the main difference between those two things. Aren't the arts just food for our minds? No, not really. Not really. All right, someone else said that they left a comment. I think this will be the last one. Sponge Critifan, who is I feel like regardless of health, the point of chocolate is to taste good, and the point of a story is to teach some sort of lesson or to have meaning. So I feel it's fucking. Yeah, exactly. So to someone who thinks that the point of a story is to just be entertaining, then that would make sense as a comparison. But the social function of the arts is for them to have meaning and to portray a perspective. That is true about the arts. That has always been true about the arts. A vast, vast majority of the arts do that. And I think that is as much proof as you possibly could get that is the point of the arts. Whereas with food, well, I guess the point of food isn't to taste good either. The point of food is nutrition. So you know what? I think what it is that both food and the arts. So the arts has two purposes. The point of the arts is what I said earlier, to show a perspective, to give meaning, all that sort of stuff. That is the point of the arts. And the arts is also to entertain. It's both of those things. It is just both of those things. It's not only one. It's not only the other. It is both of those things. Its purpose is to do both of those things. If it doesn't do one of those things, it fails. If it doesn't entertain, then it also fails. Food is like that too. Food is meant to have nutrition, and food is meant to give pleasure in taste. But I guess what you could say about food is that there could be a place for food that just tastes good. I guess not, because I guess all food in some way does provide nutrition. Like, even if you eat like a sleeve of cookies or something, at least if I eat a sleeve of cookies, well, I'm not hungry anymore. Like, it does something. You know, like, it does make you not hungry, even if you eat chocolate or a sleeve of cookies. You know, it might not be as nutritional as, like a big salad or whatever, but it doesn't do nothing. Whereas if you watch something that is like brain rot or like a Sponge Truths video that just gives you nothing, it's just wasting your time. You are literally doing nothing. So in a way, that's worse. So yeah. Meaning most stories should at least have something to say rather than just noise. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I totally, that's like the main thesis of my channel. People want to know when I'm going to do a cooking channel like MatPat. Nah, it's not going to happen. Sorry. I'm not that interested in like cooking and food. If I was ever to do other sorts of channels, I really, because I do have a gaming channel, so once I get more of a handle on this channel, possibly when I get to the point where I can hire another editor, which is what I'm hoping to do sometime soon, is to hire another editor. I already have one editor, but I'd like two editors because my videos are getting pretty big. I'd probably want to just start focusing on a lot of gaming content, live streams, doing challenges in games, talking about how games, tell stories on their own, because video games tell very different stories. Probably would never do a cooking channel, unfortunately. It's not really something that I have a lot of expertise in. All right. Sponge Critifan said, I said in your community post that I was really looking forward to this video in particular, and boy, did you deliver. Well, thank you. Like you've done before, you took a heavily discussed topic and brought so many fresh perspectives with it. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I didn't. That's one of the reasons that I didn't that is one of the reasons that I didn't do this video for so long, is because I know that it has been done before. I know that it's been, like, I know there's been a lot of Squidward torture videos around. And so I didn't do this one for a long time because I wanted to have fresh perspective. So I'm very glad that you saw that. Can I be your other editor? I edit my own videos. What's your experience level? I'm looking for quick turnarounds, so it's it'd be a tough job. But yeah, I could consider you. Don't look it up. Don't look up your videos. Okay. I myself have so much to say that I could write multiple essays about it. Heck, I have so much to say as a response to this video alone that I couldn't possibly fit all my thoughts into a reasonably sized comment. With the interest of keeping this comment brief for my standards, I'll just comment on a few highlights. I'm splitting it up into multiple comments, which I'll post as replies to this one. Oh, I guess we only got one so far. I'll just look at the jellyfishing response because I'm getting a little tired, so I think I'm going to wrap up soon. Jellyfishing is an interesting episode to analyze when it comes to discussing certain nuances of what makes a good Squidward torture episode. I initially disliked this episode as a kid because I could practically feel Squidward's pain and I didn't really understand what he did to deserve what he got. I felt that the severity of his punishment was too disproportionate to anything he did. That perspective has shifted over time as worse Squidward torture episodes began airing. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, talking about seeing it before middle SpongeBob. Because I guess if only the first 3 seasons had been out, if season 4 had not yet premiered with like Good Neighbors and stuff, that probably would be one of the most severe Squidward torture episodes. You've been editing your own video since 2015? Oh, wow. All right, I'll look you up. Cool, well, I'll consider you. Many years later, I was able to go back and appreciate aspects jellyfishing succeeds in that other episodes fail. It's little things such as the jellyfish stinging SpongeBob and Patrick 2, not exclusively Squidward, SpongeBob apologizing. Yeah, those were big differences. That SpongeBob and Patrick got punished, and the apology too. Like, I don't think that was in any other episode. There was not any other Squidward torture episode where SpongeBob says sorry. You know, and in not all of them, he didn't need to in all of them. Like, I don't think in Friendiversary he really needed to say sorry. Because a lot of the torture stuff was maybe a little bit. I'm not sure. But, like, yeah. And, like, the other ones, like in Choir Boys, didn't say sorry. You know, and, like, there's no sorries. And perhaps most importantly, SpongeBob and Patrick's misunderstanding being a result of not picking up on Squidward's sarcasm at the beginning instead of them being oblivious for no reason. It helps that Squidward wasn't being sarcastic in a way that he was expecting them to pick up on it. Instead, he was being deliberately disingenuous. Yeah. Telling him, I'd love to go jellyfishing, but I can't right now. So naturally, SpongeBob and Patrick think that he wants to go. It's a genuine misunderstanding that Squidward himself induced on purpose, and it came back to bite him. Yeah, exactly. That's so much better. Like, in later episodes, there's so much of them just being oblivious in a way that is just not justified. It just does not make sense that they're so oblivious. And this episode, Jellyfishing, really tried to make it like a genuine misunderstanding. Now I realize Squidward brought pretty much everything on himself, so I'm able to appreciate the episode much more. Oh, that's awesome. All right. I think I can end it there. Ooh, that was a lot of comments. Took for 2 hours. I am a little tired. So thank you so much for being here, everyone. And I will see you all next time.